The moment I opened my eyes, I was back in my wife's high school days. But this time, I was determined to live a different life. Just being a silent observer, watching her with my own eyes, embrace the brilliant life that was meant to be hers. Even if I wasn't a part of that beautiful life, I would be content. Ring, 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 the bell for class rang. The sound was clear and resounding, instantly piercing through the entire schoolyard. The noisy atmosphere from just a moment ago was instantly extinguished by the bell. Everything returned to silence. High school days were just like that. The short break time between classes passed in the blink of an eye. The hallways of the academic building gradually emptied. The air was filled with incentive preparing to dive into a sea of knowledge. The previously chaotic footsteps of the students, along with their soft whispers, now seemed to have been erased by something. Everyone merged into a stream, silently returning to their classrooms. I huddled in the very back corner of the classroom. After all, this spot was no different from being exiled to the frontier. Absolutely no one paid attention to an outcast like me. My eyes never left the classroom door. I watched intently as the girl walked in. Her name was Liu Ru Yan. It's a beautiful name, isn't it? I just realized the corners of my mouth had unconsciously turned up, revealing a standard, foolish grin. I immediately swung my hand and slapped my left cheek. A very light pair of glasses rested on the bridge of her nose. Her eyes behind the lenses looked a little tired. There were dark circles under her eyes. I didn't even have to think to know she must have stayed up late studying again last night. Among a crowd of students in identical uniforms, she didn't really stand out. But this very girl, who would disappear if you threw her into a crowd, was the famous academic goddess of our grade. The top spot in the science stream, she had held it firmly for all 3 years. That was my future wife. No, that's not right. Now that I've returned, the trajectory of her life will be completely different. She will become a shining star in the aerospace field, or a respected professor in the world of physics. Perhaps she'll be on par with figures like Hawking, but she absolutely will not be my wife anymore, and she certainly won't have anything to do with a scumbag like me. Seeing that the classroom was almost full, I reluctantly glanced at her one last time, then looked away. I untied the long-sleeved uniform jacket from my waist and put it on properly. The homeroom teacher, holding a stack of test papers, hurriedly entered the classroom. His expression was extremely serious. Class were having a pop quiz. The homeroom teacher's emotionless voice broke the silence in the classroom. The students below immediately erupted into a clamor, but they only dared to complain in soft whispers before resignedly starting to look for their pens and paper. My own eyebrow twitched. My heart sank. Honestly, after being reborn, this was the most annoying part of being a student. A small test every 2 days, a big test every 3 days. I sighed inwardly, closed the book that was cleaner than my face, and casually tossed it onto the pile of books on the floor to my left. I had to dig through a lot of books just to find this textbook, and in the end, I didn't use it at all. Liu Ru Yan, the teacher called her name. Liu Ru Yan stood up as usual, walked up to the teacher's desk, took the stack of test papers from the homeroom teacher. She counted them, then started handing them out to the students in the front row. After passing them out, she brushed off her clothes and sat down straight in her seat. Her back was perfectly straight. She tore a piece of scratch paper from the top of her stack of notebooks and placed it under her right hand. In the classroom, most students had gloomy expressions. Only Liu Ru Yan and I had equally calm expressions. Of course, she was confident in her abilities, while I simply knew what my score would be already. You can't expect a slacker who graduated many years ago to be able to do a math test, can you? Especially a math test. The soft rustling of paper filled the classroom. Liu Ru Yan took the test paper from the student in front of her, hearing them say, "Academic goddess, let me absorb some of your genius aura." She just smiled lightly. When she lifted her elbow, the sleeve of her uniform slid down, revealing a section of her dazzlingly white wrist. It wasn't until the rustling of the test papers got closer to me that I realized I was staring at Liu Ru Yan again, lost in a daze. I really couldn't help but slap my right cheek again. The pain spreading across my face finally forced me to tear my gaze away from her back. I looked up to check the progress of the test distribution. It was about to be my turn, so I calculated the distance and held out 2 fingers next to the shoulder of the student in front of me. Seeing the burn scar on my index finger, I subconsciously reached into my pocket. Sure enough, I found a lighter and half a pack of cigarettes. Sigh. In my past life at school, I didn't learn a single proper thing, but I picked up quite a few bad habits. The papers were still being passed down with a rustle, but unexpectedly, the student in front of me turned around and whispered to me, "They're all gone." After saying that, he immediately turned back around and started burying his head in the test. Oh, thank heavens. They're all gone. That's great. Only an idiot would like doing this stuff. Heh. I hadn't even been happy for a few seconds over here when I felt the homeroom teacher's gaze casually sweep in my direction. The moment he saw my empty desk, his eyebrows furrowed tightly. His already tormented face now looked even more severe. Looking at him, I even wanted to go up and smooth out those wrinkles for him. But then I remembered how in my past life, the homeroom teacher made a fortune playing the stock market and later carried himself with an air of importance, so I dismissed the thought. Let him frown. It's only a few more years anyway. Soon enough, nothing will trouble him anymore. I smirked and gave him a bright, sunny boy smile. As a result, his eyebrows furrowed even tighter. His expression was like he'd seen a ghost in broad daylight. The smile on my lips instantly vanished. But unexpectedly, his expression immediately returned to normal, and he even seemed to let out a sigh of relief. Warning you, what's he doing? In my past life, at most, I just didn't like studying. I never did anything too outrageous. The worst I did was win over the top student in the grade, whom he cherished the most, that's all. Thinking of this, my spirits immediately deflated. My head drooped. My eyelids fell. Liu Ruyan, in this life, you will never have any connection with a scumbag like me again. While I was here wallowing in self-pity, healing my wounds alone, an uninvited guest suddenly appeared before me, a pristine white test paper, the sight of which made my head ache. I followed the finger with a thin callus on its middle digit upwards and met Liu Ruyan's emotionless eyes. You can do this one first, I'll go get another one. Her hair was tied in a high ponytail, which brushed against the nape of her neck. Her head was slightly bowed, her eyelashes drooping like butterfly wings. My heart suddenly trembled. My hand, which was propping up my chin, unconsciously dropped. I finally remembered. I remembered exactly which moment I had been reborn into. It was Liu Ruyan. It was this act of kindness, treating every classmate the same, that began our ill-fated relationship in the previous life. In my past life, I borrowed this test paper, then scribbled nonsense all over it, my mind filled with nothing but Liu Ruyan's name. After that, Liu Ruyan was truly ruined by an uneducated bum like me. Just as she was about to turn and leave, I shot up from my seat and made a choice completely opposite to the one in my past life. I snatched the test paper and shoved it right back into her hand. I accidentally touched her palm. Damn, so soft. Exactly the same as when I touched it in my past life. I feigned a scornful snort, stuck one hand in my pocket, and avoided the surprised gaze of Liu Ruyan, then looked up defiantly at the homeroom teacher on the platform. I don't know how to do it anyway, and I'm too lazy. I threw out this sentence nonchalantly. Because of the commotion, many students who were engrossed in their work turned to steal a glance at me. People like me and these good, honest students were from two completely different worlds. But ironically, this very sense of being an outsider held an indescribable attraction for them. That's why in my past life, even though my grades were terrible, there were still quite a few teenage girls who had a secret crush on me. Can't be helped. They're just naive little girls, always easily captivated by a bad boy student like me. Liu Ruyan was still standing there stunned, unable to react for a moment. Combined with her black-rimmed glasses, she looked completely dazed. Damn it, she's so freaking cute. I swallowed hard, afraid that looking any longer would backfire, so I turned my head away, and while the homeroom teacher was so angry his mustache was bristling, I strode quickly out of the classroom. I'm just not good at studying. It's not that I have a character problem. Even though I'm not studying, I can't affect the other students' learning, can I? Reaching the door, I even casually waved at the homeroom teacher as a sort of goodbye. Sigh, it's no wonder Liu Ruyan fell for me in the last life. This damned charm of mine is just unbelievable. I walked out of the classroom with my head held high and chest puffed out. The homeroom teacher's gaze was like a pair of headlights, following me the entire way. I went to the grade-level director's office first, took a lap around there, then covered my face and headed for the school gate. As a result, before I even stepped out of the gate, I was stopped by the security guard. I looked down and remembered I was still wearing my school uniform. I argued with him for a long time, saying all sorts of nice things, but he still wouldn't let me leave. That fork-shaped thing in his hand was always blocking my neck. I had no choice. I glanced at him, at his fingers, yellowed from smoke, and pulled a cigarette from my pocket and lit it, slowly bringing it to his mouth. Then, while he was surprised, I flicked my wrist and threw the cigarette. It drew a beautiful arc, and the cigarette landed precisely on the newspaper on the security guard's desk. Yes, a successful three-point shot. While the security guard picked up his teacup effortlessly and put out that small flame, by the time he looked up again, all he could see was the dust kicked up by my heels. After running a short distance, I turned back to look at the towering academic building amidst a cluster of high-rises. I put my index and middle fingers together and placed them on my forehead. Goodbye, my youth. Okay, the first step of the moon plan is a complete success. The sky was like an artist, gently painting the roadside shops with pale colors. The shops were opening one by one. Steam rose from the breakfast stalls, their fragrance spreading, and an aroma hit my nose. My stomach immediately clenched. Only then did I realize I hadn't eaten breakfast. I turned out all my jacket and pants pockets, and only managed to scrape together 2.5 yuan. The younger me was truly dirt poor. Oh well. Taking care of important business is more crucial. Skyscrapers stood before me. It had been a long time since I'd been back, and for a moment I couldn't find my old doghouse. It took me a lot of effort to dig out a path from those hazy memories. The alley was very narrow, and the trees on both sides grew lushly. The branches of an old scholar tree drooped down, gently brushing against the shoulders of passers-by. That's right, it's this dilapidated apartment complex. The wall paint was peeling off in patches. You could still see the graffiti I drew as a child on it. I ran straight upstairs, looked at the rotten wooden door in front of me, took a deep breath, and lifted my leg to kick. With a loud bang, a numbing pain shot through my leg. Ouch, that freaking hurts. I grimaced in pain, paused for 2 seconds, then looked at the door, which, despite being quite peeled, had a surprisingly sturdy lock. I frowned deeply. Damn it, how come I never noticed this crappy door was so sturdy before? Luckily, the noise just now woke up the drunkard inside. I heard a rustling sound inside the house and pushed my tongue against my molars. The old man, the moment he opened the door and saw it was me, his drunken face, showed clear surprise. He squinted at the sky outside. "What are you back for?" he asked with disgust, then grabbed the bottle of liquor next to him and took a big gulp. I glanced at the mess inside the house, pushed him aside, and went straight into my room. My room was messy too, but compared to the outside, it could be considered tidy. I lifted the mattress, reached underneath to feel around, and sure enough, there was nothing there. So it turns out, the money from my past life had already been taken by him to buy liquor at this point. I laughed self-deprecatingly, let go, and the thin mattress snapped back into place, kicking up the dust hidden under the bedboard. "You brat, hiding money in the house, and you thought you could get it past me?" That old man was sprawled on the sofa, pushing all the clothes in his way onto the floor, and smugly shaking the bottle in his hand. His flushed face made me sick. My 10 fingers slowly clenched until my palms ached. I only then realized that I had unconsciously walked up to him. "You, get out!" Before the old man could finish, I grabbed his chin tightly. I used a lot of force, causing him to open his mouth involuntarily, with a look of shock on his face. Without waiting for the curses in his mouth to pour out, without hesitation, I snatched the bottle from his hand. The movement was both rough and decisive. The liquor in the bottle, shaken violently, frothed up. I tilted my hand, and the amber liquid poured out of the bottle like a broken dam, unceremoniously, pouring it all into his mouth. The old man's eyes widened, and a gurgling sound came from his throat. He wanted to struggle, but he was no match for me at all. Actually, for a long time now, I've been stronger than him. "Where's the money? Where's the money you took to buy liquor?" I yelled at him, then let go so he could breathe. "You bastard! You dare treat your—" The old man angrily shot up from the floor, raising his hand to slap me. But he had drunk too much, his legs were unsteady, and he stumbled and fell back to the ground. The liquor on my hands was sticky and greasy, and combined with the strong smell of cheap alcohol, it made my stomach churn. I couldn't be bothered to waste any more words on a useless drunk, so I strode forward, grabbed his hair, and poured the rest of the bottle into his mouth. The liquor dribbled from the corners of his mouth, dripping onto his clothes, leaving dark stains. The old man finally realized the difference in strength between us. His survival instincts overrode the temper brought on by the alcohol. His fingernails scratched several bloody lines on my arm. Through the old man's bloodshot eyes, I saw a version of myself that was both calm and crazed. I lowered my head, forcing him to look me in the eye, my voice as cold as ice. "I'll ask you one more time, where's the money?" The old man looked at me as if I were a stranger. I increased the pressure in my hand, and he finally came to his senses, unconsciously reaching inside his shirt. So it was hidden here. I let go of his hair, pulled open his shirt, and finally found a few red bills. Just a sparse few. I glanced again at the bottles rolling around on the floor, and a familiar feeling of helplessness suddenly rose within me. That was the sorrowful cry of my 18-year-old self, because later on, I had long since become numb to all of this. Later, when Liu Ruyan and I got married, that old man had the nerve to want to come celebrate, but I flatly refused him. Others might not have known, but how could I not know the calculations going on in his mind? He was simply after the wedding gift money. I stood up, looked down from above, at the old man, who was touching his hair and coughing dryly, and didn't want to stay a second longer. I slammed the door and left, ignoring whatever curses he threw at my back. I pretended not to hear. I ran blindly for a while, and the scenery along the road became more and more familiar. My turbulent heart finally began to calm down. Especially when I looked up and saw the faint silhouette of the moon in the sky, I felt even more at peace. I just kept looking up at the sky, staring for a long time. As a result, just as I came back to my senses, I was pinned to the ground by a dark figure. "Damn it, the security guard. You're not at the school gate. What are you doing out here?" He didn't say a word, just held me tightly with his arms. My heart skipped a beat, a bad feeling arose. I turned my head to the side, and the homeroom teacher's dark face was indeed there. Next to him was another person, who also looked quite familiar. It wasn't until the three of them dragged me back to the school office that I realized who that person was. "Isn't that my grade-level director? Sigh, long time no see. Ha Chang, you really?" The grade-level director was so angry that he pointed at me for a long time without being able to form a complete sentence. After so many years hearing this name again, I felt a little dazed. That old man had always called me a bastard. Until the day we went to register my household, he still wasn't sober. The man was still tipsy. Finally, the staff member there really couldn't stand it anymore and helped me choose this name. That's why in my past life, after getting together with Liu Ruyan, I shamelessly begged her to give me a new name. She was smart and educated, so the name she spent several days thinking up was naturally very good. Nothing more to be said. As for the name Ha Chiang, I had long since thrown it into some forgotten corner. I sat obediently in front of them, accepting this three-way interrogation. Watching the grade-level director's mouth move, I gradually started to drift off. My eyelids began to feel heavy. I quietly yawned, turned my head away in boredom, and came face to face with the glaring homeroom teacher. I even giggled at him. Who would have thought his eyes would immediately bulge, looking like his eyeballs were about to pop out and stick to my face? I don't know how much time passed, but the grade-level director, having talked himself hoarse without getting any reaction from me, wearily picked up his cup and took a sip of water. I figured enough time had passed, so I stood up from the chair, smoothed out the paper they had slammed down in front of me, and placed it back on the desk. "Director, I've decided to drop out." The moment these words left my mouth, the grade-level director's eyelid twitched violently. The look in his eyes was almost shooting fire. The mug in his hand, engraved with advanced individual, was also clattering. "Hachiang." His voice suddenly became shrill. I nodded and responded, "Yes. Let me tell you, dropping out requires a parent's signature. It's not something you can do by just finding a random piece of scrap paper and writing dropout in big letters." I pretended to nod as if I understood, but didn't. Then, under the bewildered gazes of the grade-level director and my homeroom teacher, I picked up a pen and wrote that old man's name with a flamboyant flourish. After signing, I pushed the paper in front of them. The two of them were silent for a moment, then their breathing became heavy. "I don't have a mother. My father is an alcoholic. He's never cared about me." As soon as I finished speaking, the expressions of the two teachers immediately changed. The grade-level director, who was just about to pout and scold me, suddenly softened. "If you're not going to school anymore, what do you plan to do in the future? Start a business. I've already thought of a direction." The two teachers spent the whole morning trying to persuade me, but this time their tone was much more pleasant than before. But I didn't listen to a word, in one ear and out the other. Seeing the stalemate, a kind person like me had to take half a step back, taking the dropout form back from the grade-level director. Right under the pitiful gazes of the two teachers, I acted as if I suddenly remembered something and furtively licked my lips. Then I suddenly slipped and fell right at their feet. "Grade-level director, homeroom teacher, I'm begging you, please lend me some money. I'm begging you." I have to say, educated people are different. They've never seen such a shameless spectacle like me before. In the end, relying on my gift of gab, I finally managed to pocket a stack of red bills and happily walked out of the school gate. I first waved to the scrap collector, telling him to wait a moment. Then, under the watchful eye of the security guard, I swaggered back to the classroom. By this time, the pop quiz had long ended. The students were chattering about how difficult the test was, but when they saw me enter, the classroom instantly fell silent for a moment. "Ha Chang, where did you run off to?" a kind person asked me. I shrugged indifferently, not answering him right away. Instead, I walked to my seat, took off my uniform jacket, and stuffed all the books from my desk into it. The ones that didn't fit, I selected, and left the ones that were still quite clean, without many doodles, on top of the desk. What are you doing?" The student sitting in front of me suddenly spoke up, his voice filled with well-intentioned unease. Liu Ruyan also stopped writing, turned around, and looked at me with a questioning gaze. At that moment, I saw a brand new test paper under her hand. She was always like that, both talented and more hardworking than anyone else. I didn't dare to turn my head to look at her. Under the attention of the whole class, I spoke frankly. "I am preparing to drop out. These books on the desk are all still new. Anyone who needs them can just take them." The whole class immediately buzzed with commotion. No wonder, they were all good students. Dropping out was like a fairy tale to them. I ignored everyone's chatter, tied the two sleeves of my uniform into a knot, and slung the bundle of books over my shoulder. From the corner of my eye, I could feel Liu Ruyan looking at me with disapproval. I hadn't taken more than a few steps when I suddenly remembered something. I leaped onto the podium, said to everyone with a playful grin, "You are all good students, you have to study hard. Absolutely do not follow my bad example. Especially you, Liu Ruyan, you just keep being your good student self and have a bright future." In my past life, I relentlessly pursued her. Even though she liked me too, that final barrier was never broken. It wasn't until I followed her to the city where she attended university to work part-time and pursued her for another year that the two of us officially got together. Thinking back now, for her to lower herself to notice me, a big reason was probably because in the stressful, repetitive environment of senior year, a delinquent like me suddenly appeared. She mistook that youthful sense of novelty for vague feelings of affection. The top academic goddess of the grade, paired with the bottom-ranking male student, a couple like that could easily become a topic of heated discussion among impulsive youths. After I finished talking, I turned my head and saw my homeroom teacher looking at me with a pained expression. Sigh, it can't be helped. People with such a high sense of responsibility like him are all like that. Even when a bottom-ranking student like me wanted to drop out, he felt it was a pity. I thought for a moment, and as I reached the door, I leaned into my homeroom teacher's ear and said quickly, "In the future, feel free to use me as a bad example in class. I guarantee I won't sue you for infringing on my image rights." When the homeroom teacher frowned, about to grab a set square to whack my butt, I had already predicted his move and bolted in an instant. I carried that huge bundle of books, and as soon as I reached the school gate, I was stopped by that swift security guard with a stainless steel baton. I waved the dropout form in front of him, then swaggered out of the school gate and sold all the books wrapped in my uniform jacket to the scrap collector. Hey kid, not studying anymore? I was counting the 28.8 yuan I had just earned when the security guard next to me asked with concern. I waved my hand and said without turning back, not anymore, not cut out for studying. After saying that, I raised my index and middle fingers and waved towards the school behind me as a real farewell. This time, I have completely severed the ill-fated connection between me and Liu Ruyan. According to her original life trajectory, it's highly likely that our paths will not cross much in this lifetime. That's very good. I clutched the large sum of money hidden in my waistband and took a big tour of the city, finally finding the starting point for my career. I pulled out a few red bills and shouted loudly, "Owner, Phase 2 of my moon plan has officially begun." That evening, I timed it and went home. As expected, that old man had gone out drinking and carousing again. After tidying up the house, I left without a second thought. Then I let out a long, heavy sigh. I started wandering the streets, and also scouting where to start my business empire. Wandering just like that, it got dark. I chewed on a steamed bun, calling it dinner. Who asked me to be dirt poor right now? Just after scouting a location, I suddenly stopped short and hid behind the corner wall. I waited until I saw Liu Ruyan hugging her school bag and rushing home before coming out from behind the wall. I stared at her open school bag and her disheveled uniform, a thoughtful look in my eyes. Liu Ruyan had always cherished her books. This situation made me frown. I scooped up a handful of dirt from the ground, then conveniently tucked a broken wooden stick into my waistband and slipped into the alley she had just come out of. As soon as I entered, I ran into 3 punks with blonde hair. One look at them, and I knew their grades were even worse than mine. I saw the pink wallet they had thrown on the ground and immediately understood. Liu Ruyan had just been robbed. Damn it, you 3 bastards. The blonde punks also noticed me, threw down their cigarettes, looked at the uniform I was wearing and whistled. It seemed they saw me as a fat sheep too. I took out a cigarette I'd forgotten to throw away and walked towards them with a grin, holding it. Just as the blonde punks thought I was going to be sensible, I suddenly threw the handful of dirt in my hand. While they were bent over, covering their eyes and cursing loudly, I pulled out the broken wooden stick from behind me and rushed in, beating them relentlessly. In my past life, ever since I started pursuing Liu Ruyan, I had never fought again, because the person I loved didn't like such things. After so many years, my moves were a bit rusty. Damn, it took a lot of my energy. I touched the cut on the corner of my mouth and ran like crazy. To take a shortcut, while climbing a wall, I carelessly stepped on a dog. As a result, that dog chased me for a whole street. But thanks to it, I arrived before Liu Ruyan, getting to the downstairs of her apartment building, and casually tossed her wallet on the path she would definitely take. Seeing Liu Ruyan pick up the wallet, without a second word, I turned and slipped away. I touched the cut on the corner of my mouth, looked up at the smoke in the sky, and left with satisfaction. After careful calculation, I finally invested my startup capital in a 3-way intersection not far from a high school. This place not only has a lot of foot traffic, but the transportation is also convenient, so if I ever need to run away, I can hop on my little tricycle and escape at any time. I just never expected that I would run into my homeroom teacher here. I handed him a grilled sausage with extra numbing spice and extra hot spice as a thank you for the financial support from this original shareholder. Seeing that he was still hesitating, I bluntly shoved the sausage into his hand and hurried off to serve other customers. The customers came in waves. It was quite bustling just a moment ago, but the small stall suddenly became quiet again. I glanced at my homeroom teacher who was hesitating to say something next to me and popped a starched sausage into my own mouth. "The business you mentioned is this?" the homeroom teacher asked carefully, afraid that a slip of the tongue would hurt my pitiful self-esteem. His lips were already red from the spiciness of the sausage I made. I, on the other hand, was quite calm. In contrast, the homeroom teacher's complicated expression made it seem like I was doing something shady. "Don't look down on my small stall. I earn quite a bit in a day. It'll pay you back soon." After saying that, I smacked my lips. As expected of the future king of snacks, the taste of this starched sausage is truly amazing. The homeroom teacher wiped the sweat from his forehead caused by the spice and shook his head indifferently. After a long hesitation, he finally asked the question on his mind. "Are you really not planning to go back to school?" "I'm not. What can I do after finishing school anyway? With my terrible grades, I can't even find a job. It's better to start my own thing early." While cleaning the grill, I looked at the empty stall and muttered to myself, "This is usually the peak hour. Why is no one coming this way today?" I was wondering, wiping the grease from my hands, then continued. "Most importantly, I don't have money for tuition. Back then, I secretly washed dishes for people. The money I saved, I foolishly left it at home, and as a result, that old man took it all." In my past life, I still had the mindset of a student, clearly not doing well in my studies, but still wanted to cling to school. I was endlessly sad about this. In this life, I've finally thought things through and see things more clearly. I wiped my face, then looked down at my clothes, and then at the students around who kept sneaking glances this way, feeling even more puzzled. Why aren't they coming over? I was thinking, and accidentally glanced at the homeroom teacher next to me, who had his lips pursed with a deadpan expression, and I immediately understood where the problem was. I didn't care whether he was happy or not, and shoved another sausage right into his hand. "Hachiang, I can't take if you don't take it, you won't have any customers." The homeroom teacher still didn't understand what I meant until he saw a crowd of students suddenly rush over. Only then did he realize that his own solemnity had scared these kids away. As expected, students are naturally afraid of teachers. Finally, the customers came back. I frantically collected money, busy as a bee. Out of the corner of my eye, I saw the homeroom teacher still standing there stiffly, so I casually asked, "How did everyone do on the last pop quiz?" "Oh, pretty good. Everyone maintained their performance." Hearing that I still cared about my classmates, the homeroom teacher's face lit up with joy. He also held the starch sausage in his hand up high. I was a little touched. I didn't expect the homeroom teacher to even think of helping me attract customers. I pretended to casually ask another question. "Is Liu Ru Yan still number one?" Goes without saying. Liu Ru Yan, of course she's number one. There's no doubt about it. The homeroom teacher's voice was full of pride. After hearing that, I unconsciously nodded. That's right. Liu Ruyan is always that outstanding. If she hadn't married me in our past life, if she hadn't been held back by me and our child, she should have been standing in a high place, an existence that countless people would look up to. The oil on the grill sizzled. The splattering oil was a little hot on my hands. I looked at the crowd of students in front of me and suddenly realized, today isn't the weekend. Homeroom teacher, don't you have classes today? The homeroom teacher saw I was struggling a bit by myself, so he used his free hand to help me collect money. No need. Today the 12th grade is going mountain climbing. Our group is the one that just got back. I just walked a little faster. As he spoke, he couldn't help but sigh. Sigh, the students' physical fitness these days is really not good. Every single one of them walks slower than this old man. As soon as those words entered my ears, my heart immediately skipped a beat, and an ominous feeling rose within me. I had just looked up when I saw the homeroom teacher happily waving into the distance. The sausage in his hand dripped oil down the skewer, getting all over his hand. Following his gaze, a long line of students came into view. With just one glance, I locked onto Liu Ruyan in the crowd. She was whispering to a classmate next to her, a shy smile playing on her lips, a rare look of relaxation on her face. I quickly lowered my head and skillfully busied myself with the work at hand. It wasn't until an impatient customer called out to me in front of the stall that I bowed my head even lower, really wishing I could just crawl into the grill. "Hey kids, everyone come over, this way." The homeroom teacher's booming voice shouted like that, instantly attracting everyone's attention. I gritted my teeth and glared at him, only to see him smugly raising his eyebrows at me. "Isn't this Ha Chiang? Long time no see." "That's right. Without you in class, it feels a bit strange." I forced a standard business smile. Those words couldn't be more polite. With a bottom-ranking student like me gone from the class, the average score must have gone up quite a bit. The homeroom teacher slapped me on the shoulder and then waved his hand domineeringly. "It's my treat today. Sausages for the whole class. I'm paying. Take as many as you want. Just let Ha Chiang know." "Whoa, teacher, you're awesome." "Thank you, teacher." "And thank you, classmate Ha Chiang." I don't know who in the crowd suddenly shouted that. As a result, the thank yous to me grew louder and louder. Anyone who didn't know the situation would probably think I had donated a building to the school. I snuck a glance at Liu Ruyun and saw her looking around curiously. I quickly averted my gaze, and facing those young, innocent faces, I broke into a bright smile. "Don't be so formal. We're all classmates. How could I take your money? Everything is free. Take as many as you want. You're so cool." Yeah, you're so nice too." The homeroom teacher next to me was about to say something, but with quick hands and sharp eyes, I snatched the sausage from his hand and stuffed it into his mouth. The students were all both enthusiastic and a little shy. Those who brought money insisted on giving it to me. I couldn't stop them no matter what. As for those who didn't bring money, they were both craving it and too embarrassed to take it for free. In the end, I had to put away my money bag and hand them the sausages one by one. For those who were too shy, I just stuffed the sausages straight into their mouths. Simple and effective. To be honest, although I'm not a good student, I quite like this group of students. They're simple-minded with no ill intentions. This time, even with the homeroom teacher helping out, I was still incredibly busy. I stared at the golden, crispy sausage on the far right, carefully picked it up, first spread a layer of ketchup, then lightly sprinkled some chili powder on top. "Liu Ruyan, this one is for you." When her name came out of my mouth, I felt a warmth spread through my chest. Liu Ruyan seemed a little surprised, a hint of a smile in her eyes, as she took the sausage from my hand. Actually, she can't handle spicy food, but she can never resist the craving. In our past life, whenever I ate with her, I would always order one spicy portion and one non-spicy one. "Whoa, Liu Ruyan, yours is grilled perfectly, is that so?" Liu Ruyan took the first bite, and the chili powder on top made her squint from the spiciness, and she even unconsciously stuck out her tongue. I feigned surprise. "Oh, really? Liu Ruyan, it seems you're lucky. Thank you." Liu Ruyan's eyebrows immediately relaxed, like a blooming flower. Her eyes behind her glasses sparkled with a clear light. In my past life, I loved to tease her. Always when she was tired from studying, I would secretly take off her glasses and kiss her eyebrows, her eyes, then look into those hazy eyes and hug her tightly. Right now, Liu Ruyan was very happy, but as soon as her gaze met mine, it was as if she was burned, and she quickly looked away. A faint blush quietly crept up behind her ears. I looked down at myself and realized, today I was wearing a white tank top with just a long-sleeved shirt tied haphazardly around my waist. The lines of my chest muscles were somewhat visible, and the grease on my stomach made the shirt cling to my skin. It can't be helped. Isn't this also business competition? If it weren't for this outfit, my business wouldn't be any better than the stalls next to me. Liu Ruyan, you must study hard. She heard me say this and looked up to smile at me. That smile was very faint, carrying a polite distance. After that, I kept my head down and worked, not daring to look up again. It wasn't until the homeroom teacher checked his watch and led the whole troop away that I finally looked up, greedily etching Liu Ruyan's back into my memory with my eyes. Her high ponytail swayed, her whole body exuded confidence, with no trace of the person who was tormented by postpartum depression that year. In my previous life, because my qualifications were too low, I couldn't find any decent work, so I went to the city where Liu Ruyan was attending university to be a street vendor, doing some small business. The top female student of the grade and the male student at the bottom of the class. A story like this might sound romantic, but in reality, no one believed we could last. Even I myself was often insecure, because Liu Ruyan was truly too outstanding. After class, she would always come to my stall to help. When she met her schoolmates, she would naturally link her arm with mine and confidently introduce me, saying, "This is my boyfriend." I knew that even if they didn't say it, they were definitely thinking in their hearts it was truly a fresh flower, stuck on a pile of cow dung. Liu Ruyan herself didn't care about those things, but I didn't want her to suffer with me. I worked several jobs a day and tried my best to save money. Liu Ruyan was very sharp. She noticed my unusual behavior, so she asked her family for some money. I don't know how she convinced her family, but when I saw the redness in her eyes, I clenched my teeth and swore that I would absolutely not let her suffer with a poor guy like me. I used all the savings I had from my part-time jobs, plus the money Liu Ruyan's family gave, and bought a closed-down factory. I prepared to run a starch sausage production line on my own. During those years, Liu Ruyan always said I was living too hard a life, and her heart ached for me. But I didn't feel that way at all. On the contrary, I felt that life was becoming more hopeful. It was a hope that belonged to me and Liu Ruyan, a hope for our future. Unexpectedly, by just keeping at it, I actually managed to accomplish something. Later, when Liu Ruyan was in graduate school, her tuition fees, and even the scientific research funds that needed to be paid up front, were all taken from our joint account card. Our lives went on very smoothly. We got married while Liu Ruyan was in graduate school. The property deeds were all in her name and her parents' names. After all, on my side, there was only that old man, and I couldn't let him benefit from it. But just as Liu Ruyan was about to start her PhD, she found out she was pregnant. This was the fruit of our love. After discussing it with me, Liu Ruyan decided to have the baby. She started to rest at home for her pregnancy. Her doctoral studies naturally had to be postponed. As for my factory, due to the so-called starch sausages on the internet, there were problems with the raw materials. The products couldn't be sold, piling up in the warehouse. During that time, I was busy as hell. Liu Ruyan was often sad because she couldn't contribute to the family, and always cried secretly behind my back. Later on, Liu Ruyan gave birth to our daughter, but ended up suffering from postpartum depression. It wasn't until then that I truly realized how terrifying mental illness could be. I regretted countless times as her husband why I hadn't noticed it sooner. Even though Liu Ruyan was still so considerate, so as not to make me worry, she always had a smile on her face. But I knew clearly in my heart it was all just a forced smile. The factory's incident made her feel helpless, and her academic research was forced to be interrupted. Being a mother for the first time also made her flustered and unsure of what to do. All of these things combined forced her into becoming a housewife. Liu Ruyan, she was originally such an outstanding person, yet she was helplessly trapped at home, like a blooming rose wilting day by day. Later, I thought about it for a long time, and I came to a realization. The bright moon hangs high, a word of dust. A good person like Liu Ruyan shouldn't have been tied down by family in the first place, shouldn't have been shackled by the role of a wife. She should be Liu Ruyan, and can only be Liu Ruyan, not someone's wife, not someone's mother. Though myriad stars face the moon on the horizon, they still lament that the high-hanging moon is out of reach. Liu Ruyan should never have had her life ruined by someone like me from the very beginning. The figures of the students gradually moved away. I stood in my spot, watching their vibrant backs. "Boss, 1 grilled sausage." A customer handed over 3 yuan. I eagerly took it and habitually asked him what flavor he wanted. I stayed busy like that until late at night. Just as I was about to pack up, I saw that old man carrying a bottle of liquor, aggressively walking towards me. He even took a big swig, as if trying to muster up courage. I raised my eyebrows in slight surprise. I never expected that this drunkard, who's wasted all day, could actually find his way here. What's even more unexpected is, for him to show up this late. "That dog, you dare to sell the things in the house. Have I been spoiling you too much?" He pressed one hand on my small tricycle, looking like he wanted to flip my beloved cart over. How ridiculous. Does he think that because there are people here, I wouldn't dare to hit him? Truly laughable. In my previous life, my biggest regret was dealing with him too late. I grabbed his wrist and twisted it upwards, making the old man immediately cry out for his parents. I then easily pulled him aside. I didn't sell everything. I'm still using a few things, you see. Besides, some of those things were bought with my money in the first place. That old man, restrained by me, couldn't break free. His shifty eyes darted around. It was clear he was up to no good. As expected, the next second he threw himself on the ground and started to play the victim. Oh my God, help! This unfilial son is hitting his father. Everyone, come and see! Come and see! A son is beating his father. His hands were flailing in the air. His legs were also kicking wildly on the ground. He kicked up dust everywhere, which clung to his wrinkled and sour-smelling clothes. Among the people around, some were surprised, some were sympathetic, and some were indifferent. They just stood there watching, but no one dared to step in and stop it. I just quietly watched him act, watching the ridiculous farce before me. In my previous life, when my factory ran into trouble, this old man also played the victim like this to find Liu Ruyan, pulling her into a crowd to act shamelessly, just to get a little more money for drinks before the factory completely collapsed. Although Liu Ruyan had heard me talk about how shameless this old man was, she never knew he could be this despicable. I still remember Liu Ruyan, whose condition had just started to improve, taking our child out, only to be pointed at by onlookers who didn't know the situation, and that bewildered look on her face. Before she married me, Liu Ruyan was always praised by everyone like a shining star. She had never suffered the humiliation of being gawked at like a monkey in a show. The old man's curses were in my ears. That shameless, brazen face was a perfect match with my memories from the previous life. A sense of irritation rose in my already calloused heart. I suddenly grabbed him by the collar and lifted him off the ground. My eyes were bloodshot as I warned him, "You dare cause any more trouble. The bigger the scene, the better. Let everyone see how an alcoholic father like you hasn't raised me for a single day." I was practically screaming, letting out all the suffering of 2 lifetimes that I had to endure because of this biological father, screaming it all out. The money my mother left behind was all taken by him for drinking and gambling. I'm alive today, entirely thanks to the kind neighbors around me. You didn't raise me, so don't expect me to support you in your old age or handle your funeral. If you dare to appear before me again, I'll sue you. Don't forget how much money you took from me." The old man was stunned by my words. The murmurs from the crowd started to point towards him. The moment I let go, he went limp and fell to the ground. But the instant I turned away, I heard the sound of breaking glass and the horrified screams of the kind people nearby. That old man was rushing towards me with half a broken bottle, but I just stood my ground, staring into his crazed eyes. All that remained in my heart was a deep sense of disgust. So troublesome. This kind of life is meaningless. Maybe it's better to die. That way, Liu Ruyan's life could truly become 2 parallel lines that never intersect with mine. Amidst the clamorous screams of the crowd, the image of Liu Ruyan from my previous life vaguely appeared before my eyes. It was after I told her about my life as a sewer rat, she simply lifted my face, making me look into her eyes. She told me seriously, word by word, "Don't let others interfere with your life. You have to live your own way. Even mud can be used to plaster a wall." Then she kissed my brow, and in the gentlest voice, she told me, "My love, you are not a terrible person." My body reacted faster than my thoughts. I subconsciously took half a step back. It was as if Liu Ruyan from my past life had pulled me back from behind. That sharp piece of glass ended up only stabbing my right arm. Warm, fresh blood flowed out. This color red seemed to make the old man sober up a little. Reason took over. His hand trembled, and he dropped the bottle. His eyes were filled with fear. I couldn't help but let out a sneer. A scoundrel like him, who even his relatives avoided, was actually afraid of me one day. What was he afraid of? Afraid I'd send him to the police station? I clutched my bleeding arm, coldly lowered my gaze, looking at him. It seemed I felt no pain at all. I opened my slightly pale lips and gave him an ultimatum. "I'm saying this for the last time. Don't ever appear in front of me again. Otherwise, adding this charge of intentional injury, it'll make sure you spend the rest of your life in prison." The old man nervously swallowed. The smell of alcohol on the ground, mixed with the metallic scent of blood, assaulted my nose and made me feel nauseous. "Still not leaving? Can't you see they've already called the police?" My few kind reminders scared the old man so much that he scrambled away, not daring to look back, and disappeared in an instant. I cleaned up the broken glass shards on the ground, threw them all in the trash, then got on my little tricycle and slipped away. That old man was both stupid and naive. I was just scaring him. These people around me were all strangers. Who would bother to call the police? After all, this was a family matter. I made a trip to the hospital to treat the wound on my arm, but as soon as I smelled the disinfectant, I felt an indescribable discomfort in my heart. In my previous life, Liu Ruyan had postpartum depression. She refused to admit she had a mental problem, so I had to keep going to the hospital. After going so many times, I even had the nerve to ask for the doctor's WeChat. The doctor told me, no matter how much the family cares for the new mother, it's still very easy to get postpartum depression. Because childbirth causes great damage and fatigue to a woman's body, and after giving birth, she has to take care of the baby immediately, making her physically and mentally very fragile. The care and concern from the family sometimes may not be enough to fill the emotional and psychological void of the new mother. If the new mother doesn't receive enough social and emotional support, it's very easy for her to feel lonely, helpless, and wronged. Every time I think about these things, I wish I could just slap myself twice. What kind of husband was I? Truly a bastard. And what about Liu Ruyan? Even when she was sick, she would always turn around to comfort me, saying she could understand how hard it was for me to be running around. Oh, my wife. Oh, my love. Damn it. How could she be such a good person? I rushed out of the hospital and finally returned to my new home under the bridge. As a result, as soon as I saw the pile of dog poop in my makeshift tent, I couldn't help but crawl back out and curse at the sky and the earth. I was speechless. I usually joke that this is a dog kennel. I didn't expect it to actually attract a dog to come here and do its business. I muttered curses as I cleaned the bedding and then lay down on the bed. Through the roof of the tent, through the simple skylight I had cut myself, I gazed at the moon in the sky. Oh moon, moon, oh moon, oh moon, please bless the one I love, so that in this life she may be safe and sound, free from disaster and hardship. In the following days, apart from paying back the grade-level director and the homeroom teacher and coincidentally meeting Liu Ruyan once, I didn't see her again. Later on, after the college entrance exams ended, I saw Liu Ruyan visiting my stall again. I was so scared at that moment that I immediately changed my selling spot and hid until she went to college in another city. The two of us never met again. This was for the best. Liu Ruyan's dazzling life is finally about to begin. The days passed just like that. Since the last time I saw Liu Ruyan, 2 years, 3 months, and 5 days have passed. Sigh, to be honest, I don't want to remember this number of days either. But what can I do? I was born with a gift. The date just automatically appears in my head. I once thought I had awakened some incredible talent. As it turns out, I borrowed a middle schooler's review materials to take a look. Oh my god, my vision went black. As expected, I'm still a clod of dirt with no affinity for studying. Boss, 1 grilled sausage. It's this familiar voice again. I quickly added spice and numbing powder, took the money with one hand, and handed over the sausage with the other. Seeing the homeroom teacher hissing from the spice, I laughed while opening a bottle of water for him. Homeroom teacher, you're quite amazing. How is it that wherever I move my stall, you can always find me? These past few years, to avoid Liu Ruyan, I've moved spots every holiday break. But every time, it's like the homeroom teacher has a tracker on me. He always shows up on time. The homeroom teacher gave me a smug look and patted his slightly protruding beer belly with satisfaction. This is called skill. I let out a soft laugh, looking at his increasingly thinning hair. I couldn't help but remind him, "You're not young anymore, teacher. Eat less of these oily and salty things. Be careful of the 3 highs." As a result, he waved his hand dismissively. I could only shrug helplessly. After seeing off another customer, I took out a small red velvet box from my pocket. The homeroom teacher's eyelid twitched. His eyes couldn't hide his happy surprise. For me? Of course. Wasn't it Teacher's Day recently? A problem student like me was afraid of embarrassing you by showing up, so I didn't appear, but I still have to make up for the gift. Oh my, listen to you. The homeroom teacher threw away the bamboo skewer in his hand, wiped his hands firmly on his clothes, and only then did he accept my gift. A fountain pen. Heh. I like this. The homeroom teacher was overjoyed. Even the few strands of hair on his head seemed to be dancing. I wondered, isn't it just a small gift? Does he need to be this happy? What's wrong? Did the other students all come to visit you empty-handed? Of course not, but it's the thought that counts above all else. I pretended to nonchalantly wipe the grill pan while steering the topic towards Liu Ruyan. As soon as Liu Ruyan was mentioned, his favorite student, homeroom teacher's excitement immediately surged again. Ah, Liu Ruyan. I heard she's doing very well in college. Oh, please. Isn't that a given? Someone as outstanding as Liu Ruyan is top tier in everything she does. Heh. Of course. The homeroom teacher examined the fountain pen over and over and finally squinted at the English words on the pen's body. His tongue rolled around in his mouth a few times, but he couldn't manage to pronounce a single proper word. I really don't understand why a math teacher like him would trouble himself with a few English letters. I saw the homeroom teacher suddenly turn away mysteriously, with his back to me. I don't know what he was doing. He wasn't moved to tears, was he? Just as I was about to say a few words to comfort him, I saw him jolt as if electrocuted, suddenly turning back around, holding the pen like a hot potato. Why is this pen so expensive? Are you crazy? Return it quickly. The homeroom teacher's right hand was clutching his phone, the shopping app still bright on the screen. He fumbled, trying to put the fountain pen back in the box, but after several tries, he couldn't. Just take it, teacher. It's not like you don't know. These past few years, I haven't just been a street vendor. Relying on my experience from my past life, besides selling grilled sausages, I also dabbled in a few other businesses. You could say I was way ahead of the market and accumulated a sum of money very early on. Bought a local factory, basically retreading the path to wealth from my previous life. Still being a street vendor now is purely a personal hobby. Besides, for all these years, teacher, you've come to support me rain or shine. It must have been hard on your little secret stash of money. Under my persistent persuasion, the homeroom teacher finally put the pen in his pocket with peace of mind. Thank you. Xia-chang. I pouted helplessly and corrected him once again. Sir, I've told you many times, teacher, call me Xiaoruo. Don't call me by that rustic name anymore. The homeroom teacher fiddled with the pen in his pocket, pouted, shook his head vigorously, and mumbled, Yo, Xiaoruo, Xiaoruo. Hearing his strange tone, I couldn't help but shoot him a glare. The homeroom teacher plopped down on the flower bed behind me and started chatting with me idly. How did you come up with such a literary name? I never noticed you being very educated before. Heh, is it a good name? Liu Ruyan gave it to me in my previous life. Xiaoruo, Xiaoruo. Damn, it really sounds educated. The homeroom teacher first nodded, hesitated for 2 seconds, then shook his head again. It sounds like you know something, doesn't it? You know? Sigh. You're not a local, are you, teacher? You have an accent. I couldn't help but turn my head and look at the homeroom teacher in surprise, staring until he felt a little scared. How did he know that in my previous life I kept pestering Liu Ruyan to give me a nice name? She thought about it for several days and gave me a few options. This name, Xiaoruo, was originally what she used to tease me because I never let her worry about anything, so she would often pat my head and say, Ruyan doesn't understand the pain of separation and resentment, but I know it all. All the sorrows in Ruyan's heart, I know them all. Heh. That's why I liked this name as soon as I heard it. Could it be that there's really this kind of tacit understanding among educated people? I looked at the sky and decided to pack up immediately. I brushed sauce on the remaining sausages, packed them up, and gave them to the homeroom teacher. This is for your wife. Well, waiting for the homeroom teacher to take money out of his pocket, I had already gotten on my beloved cart. Riding like the wind, I parked my bike next to the bridge. I took out a newly bought bag of dog food from my bag. Actually, I had already moved away from under the bridge a while ago. It's just that there were some things I didn't use, like the bed sheets and duvet cover that I didn't throw away, so I decided to make a dog bed there. I was about to call out for my woof woof squad, but before I even reached the dog bed, I saw a figure that I longed for day and night, standing right there. Oh my god. Liu Ruyan. Why is she here? Startled, I quickly ducked out of sight, hiding behind a tree. Liu Ruyan was just like in our past life. She took off her glasses, straightened her hair. Her whole being was so beautiful it seemed to glow. Liu Ruyan, don't be sad anymore. Your dad will definitely be okay. Only then did I notice there was another girl next to Liu Ruyan. She was squatting with her, playing with the puppies. Oh, isn't this a familiar face? It's her best friend. I remember she's a novelist. I was so focused on Liu Ruyan just now. I didn't even see her. Liu Ruyan lowered her head, a faint look of sorrow. I don't know when it started, but it had filled her eyes. Her slightly furrowed brows made my heart feel like it was about to break. I slapped my head, trying to remember our past life. At this time, my esteemed father-in-law. What on earth had happened to him? In our past life, Liu Ruyan suddenly took a long leave of absence from school. She didn't have time to tell me the details. She just left in a hurry. At that time, my factory was just starting out. She made me stay and watch over it. She didn't let me go back with her. I had no other choice. I could only use my phone and my card to transfer all the available money to Liu Ruyan. Later, under my constant questioning, she finally told me. Her father had fallen and injured his leg. Liu Ruyan's parents were both ordinary workers. Working in a factory, her father had to climb high and low every day. That's why the accident happened. I frowned deeply. My fingers dug into the tree bark. Liu Ruyan shook her head. Stroking the little dog's head, she let out a sigh, then left with her best friend. Her shoulders looked a little slumped. I waited for a few minutes, making sure they were long gone, before I dared to step out from behind the tree. As soon as they saw their old acquaintance, me, the woof woof squad immediately surrounded me. I distractedly poured food into the dog bowl. I reached out and stroked the little dog's head. It seemed to still hold the warmth of Liu Ruyan's palm. In our past life, my esteemed father-in-law, even though he hurt his leg from the fall, and the treatment costs were so high, he refused to use the money I gave to Liu Ruyan. He was afraid that if he used my money, his daughter would owe me. Sigh, the person I love is so good. Her parents are so good too. In the end, I had to secretly call my father-in-law behind Liu Ruyan's back and tell him that I was there to pay back the money that Liu Ruyan had borrowed from them that year. I even forged a loan agreement with interest. Under all my firm assurances, my father-in-law finally gave a stiff nod. In the end, he still didn't forget to warn me not to bully his daughter, otherwise he would break my legs too. My parents-in-law are both honest people, the type who would rather sell all their possessions than ask friends and relatives for help. Thinking of this, I scratched my head in frustration. Oh, my dear father-in-law, I really like him. I suddenly slapped my head. I immediately called the factory, gave some instructions, then immediately rode my beloved vehicle to the supermarket. I chose a few gifts that were expensive but not too flashy, and went straight to the homeroom teacher's house, immediately followed by a skillful kneel. I held the gifts in both hands, and hugged the homeroom teacher's and his wife's thighs, one on the left and one on the right. I didn't forget to politely greet Shi, the teacher's son. I don't have any other good qualities, except being thick-skinned. Otherwise, I wouldn't have been able to snag a great catch like Liu Ruyan in my past life. After I finished stating my request, The homeroom teacher pouted. The tense expression on his face immediately disappeared. He gave me a speechless glare. Xia, it's just this little thing. You could have just said it directly. You scared me, looking at the way you were acting. I thought you wanted me to help you embezzle money. Heh. All right, this is going to work, my dear father-in-law. Your son-in-law, no. Your past life son-in-law is here to save you from this crisis. I left the gifts and various newly made sausages from the factory at the homeroom teacher's house. As I was leaving, I looked at the homeroom teacher's son and kindly said a word. Kid, you have to study hard, okay? Otherwise, you'll end up like me. I hadn't even finished my sentence when the homeroom teacher kicked me out. The security door was slammed shut without mercy. I stared at the huge Fu Fortune character on the door. Once again, I sighed at what a good person the homeroom teacher was. He couldn't even bear to use me as a free bad example. I already said, I don't need any royalty fees from you. Really, Aya. But I was still a little worried about Liu Ruyan. Her personality is too strong. She likes to shoulder everything herself. These past few days must have been tough for her. I used this head of mine that never took the college entrance exam and carefully schemed for a while. Then I slapped my thigh. I started staking out the house of her best friend, who was on a gap year. Sigh, I knew from our past life that this best friend of hers was a shut-in. I just didn't expect her to be this much of a shut-in. I staked her out for a whole day. Finally, I saw her come downstairs. I immediately zipped up my jacket, burying half my face in it. I lowered my head and pretended to play on my phone. Wow, the amusement park is giving out free balloons. The Ferris wheel is free too. Wow, a deal this good probably only happens once in a lifetime. Seeing her best friend's indifferent face, she had no reaction at all. I quickly ducked into the hallway, took off my jacket, turned it inside out and put it back on. Luckily, I was smart enough to wear a reversible jacket. I ran right up next to her best friend, pretending to be a passerby. Oh my god, the amusement park has free balloons. The Ferris wheel is free too. Wow, a deal this good probably only happens once in a lifetime. Seeing her best friend's indifferent expression, I immediately ducked into the hallway, took off my jacket, turned it inside out and put it back on. Luckily, I was quick-witted. I had deliberately worn a reversible jacket. I ran in one go, to get close to her best friend, pretending to be a passerby. Oh my god, the amusement park is giving away free balloons. The Ferris wheel is free too. Wow, how many times in a lifetime do you get a deal this good? Next, I quickly took off my jacket and pretended to walk past her best friend again. Oh my god, the amusement park has free balloons and a free Ferris wheel. This is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. You definitely have to go with your bestie. Just as I was wondering if I should go shirtless for another round, I finally heard her call Liu Ruyan. Yan Yan, let's go to the amusement park. The Ferris wheel is free today. It seemed like Liu Ruyan didn't agree. Her friend immediately started whining. She started acting cute. I'm begging you. Yan Yan, please just go with me this once. I'm begging you. I saw her flash a triumphant smile and immediately turned to go upstairs. Excellent. The plan is a success. But my joy was short-lived. A gust of wind blew by and I immediately sneezed. Damn it, which little brat is talking bad about me behind my back? I sniffled and put my jacket back on. According to Liu Ruyan's habits, her makeup routine usually takes a fixed 35 minutes, so I had plenty of time to leisurely get to the amusement park. But I had just gotten comfortable on my little tricycle when I looked up and was surprised to see her best friend had already changed her clothes and was coming downstairs. Oh my god, my eyes went wide. I could only watch helplessly as she rode a public bike, getting a head start on me. Damn it, I miscalculated. Liu Ruyan, how sad must she be to not even bother with makeup and just go out like that? My heart felt like it was shattering into a million pieces. I rolled up my sleeves and immediately started pedaling my beloved bike like a madman until I saw her best friend stop downstairs at Liu Ruyan's place. Only then could I breathe a small sigh of relief. But I didn't dare stop pedaling, as expected of the beloved vehicle that fought beside me in the business world. I still arrived a dozen minutes before them. I stood in the middle of the amusement park, wearing a mascot costume. I spotted Liu Ruyan at a glance. She looked a little thinner than before. Her hair was tied simply at the nape of her neck. There were even some dark circles under her eyes. I took a long stride forward and presented the sunflower-shaped balloon I was clutching in my left hand to Liu Ruyan. I also remembered to hand one to her best friend. Liu Ruyan seemed very surprised. Her eyes lit up instantly, and the corners of her mouth couldn't help but curve upwards. She finally didn't have that sorrowful expression anymore. Thank you. She took the balloon and thanked me very politely. Then she walked past me. Her best friend beside her excitedly shook her arm. See? Yan Yan, I told you there were free balloons. Let's go, let's go. The Ferris wheel is free too. I pretended to be handing out balloons. Following them from a short distance, I heard her best friend constantly comforting her. Yan Yan, stop frowning all the time. Haven't your dad's medical expenses been settled? Heaven is still looking out for you. Who would have thought that the sausage your homeroom teacher brought could win a grand prize from the scratch-off? Yeah, but I still feel like this isn't real. What's there to be afraid of? The money is already in the account. The money is real. Liu Ruyan gave a faint smile and casually tied the sunflower balloon to her wrist. Yeah, you're right. Heaven really is looking out for me. After hearing their conversation, I had also just finished handing out all the balloons. My heart was finally completely at ease. The homeroom teacher is really reliable. Heh, to be able to think of a brilliant strategy like besieging Wei to save Zhao, I'm truly a genius. But I hadn't even been smug for a few seconds. When Liu Ruyan and her best friend arrived at the Ferris wheel, while they were waiting in line, I stood behind them and frantically winked at the staff member there when it was their turn. The staff member, who had already been paid, smiled brightly and strode forward to greet them. Wow, two beautiful ladies, your luck is truly amazing. You happen to be our 100th customer this afternoon, so the Ferris wheel ride is free. After speaking, the staff member placed 2 flowers into Liu Ruyan's hands. The sunlight pierced through the thin clouds, casting down dappled shadows, spreading a layer of golden silk across the ground. She lowered her head and gently kissed the delicate flower in her hand. Her movement was incredibly gentle, as if afraid to disturb this luck that had fallen from the sky. Liu Ruyan's eyes closed slightly. Her face held an expression of unspoken peace and contentment. In my past life, every day when I was a street vendor, I would buy a flower for Liu Ruyan, so she wouldn't be sad anymore. The flower shop owner eventually got to know me when we were buying flowers for our wedding. She even gave me a special 20% discount. Heh, I picked these flowers myself. Liu Ruyan will definitely like them. Heh. Liu Ruyan linked arms with her best friend and got on the Ferris wheel. A smile shone in her eyes. She looked down and casually glanced around the amusement park. I felt her gaze pass over me. I immediately raised both hands over my head and made a big heart shape. I vaguely saw Liu Ruyan patting her best friend's arm, telling her to look too. The Ferris wheel slowly started to move. I looked up and just quietly watched her go around and around in our past life. Liu Ruyan and I made our vows on this very Ferris wheel. Oh, Ferris wheel, I beg you, please take away all the troubles of the one I love. The Ferris wheel gradually came to a stop. Liu Ruyan and her best friend got off hand in hand. The bangs on her forehead were gently blown by the wind, mingling with the scent of flowers around them. As she passed by me, I heard her best friend say, Liu Ruyan, your luck is really good. Yeah, I think so too. After that, Liu Ruyan played many other games. I always stood not far from them, watching them play wildly and take pictures. The sun slowly set. The golden light grew softer and softer. The horizon was dyed with a layer of orange, red, and light purple. The light shone on the hem of Liu Ruyan's shirt, constantly changing colors. Fortunately, there was always a smile on Liu Ruyan's face, which made the corners of my mouth stay curved up when they were tired from playing and were about to leave. I took out my instant camera, holding a sign in front of my chest that read, "Free photos, no charge. It's you. Are you still here?" Liu Ruyan looked at me with a smiling gaze and pointed at the Ferris wheel. Mimicking my earlier gesture, she also made a heart shape. That's right, I've been here all along. I nodded. I raised the camera and took a picture of them. Liu Ruyan held the flower next to her cheek. The sunlight shone through the petals onto her face, reflecting a gentle halo, making her face look even more gentle and charming. Looking at Liu Ruyan through the camera, my heart suddenly skipped a beat. I pressed the shutter. The photo printed out quickly. The Liu Ruyan in it was still so beautiful. Postpartum depression is truly torturous. In our past life, after Liu Ruyan got sick, she would scream herself hoarse over some issue for no reason. When she calmed down on her own, she would cover her face, crying, while apologizing to me. At that time, she had smashed all the mirrors in the house because she couldn't accept the person she saw in the mirror. Her figure had changed. Her face had become haggard. Every day she would harbor resentment for no reason. Thank you. Liu Ruyan smiled at me and took the photo from my hand. She huddled with her best friend, whispering. I turned and looked at her straight back and let out a long breath. Then I dragged my tired legs into the amusement park's staff lounge. As soon as I took off the mascot costume, I immediately collapsed to the ground. I sniffled. I felt like I was catching a cold. My head was spinning. I seemed to hear Liu Ruyan calling my name in my ear. I dazedly opened my eyes, when I could clearly see that the person peeking in the door was Liu Ruyan. I shot up from the ground. I had just frantically grabbed the mascot head when I saw Liu Ruyan walk up to me with a look of pleasant surprise. Xia Qiang, long time no see. When she clearly saw the mascot costume in my hands, the joy in her eyes deepened. So it was you inside this mascot costume. No wonder it felt so familiar. I immediately shook my head to deny it, but before I could say a word, I saw the manager here poke his head out the window. If you're not using the mascot costume anymore, then leave it back where you found it. I work part-time here. I looked at Liu Ruyan's smiling eyes. My mind truly couldn't come up with any other explanation. I could only give her a slight nod. After putting the mascot costume away, I didn't care that Liu Ruyan still looked like she wanted to talk to me. I strode away from there. As I passed through the door, I accidentally bumped into her best friend's shoulder. Sorry, I quickly apologized, then turned sideways and hurriedly left. I walked a very long way before I finally dared to stop. I slowly squatted down by the wall, wiping away a single tear that had secretly fallen. Then I sniffled, sneezed, and quickly went home. I didn't know how long Liu Ruyan had taken off from school, but I still found ways to avoid her. As a result, I didn't go out to sell for a long time, which scared my homeroom teacher into calling me continuously for several days, asking if I had died. I really give up. Can't you wish something better for me? Until I secretly went to the hospital, and finally saw my dear father-in-law being discharged. I didn't see Liu Ruyan at that time either. Only then did I dare to go back to selling my goods. The following days passed rather peacefully. It was also very difficult for me to get any news about Liu Ruyan from my homeroom teacher. There was no other way. The homeroom teacher really didn't know anything. My factory was still doing very well. Every day, I set up my stall on time and closed up on time. Then I'd go to the dog den under the bridge to feed the dogs. Every night, I'd gaze at the moon and smile foolishly for a while. Days like these weren't actually that hard. More than 2 years passed just like that. Liu Ruyan graduated from university. She's Liu Ruyan after all. She was always that outstanding, especially in this life without me as a burden. Just like in our past life, she successfully got accepted directly into the school's graduate program. Teacher, you came to support me even in this cold winter. I'm so touched I could die. I rubbed my hands, which were red from the cold, and handed a spicy grilled sausage to the person huddled in a cotton-padded jacket, wrapped up tight like a ball. The homeroom teacher, watching him struggle to take off his gloves, to scan the payment code for me. Of course. You could say I'm your #1 fan. Why didn't you offer me one for free? Wow, homeroom teacher, are you really short on this little bit of money now? The money in your account is about to start having babies. Hearing my flattery, the homeroom teacher immediately lifted his chin smugly. He took a bite of the grilled sausage and immediately started sweating. He ate half the sausage. Seeing that I still hadn't said anything, he couldn't help but huff, and started the conversation himself. Why aren't you asking about Liu Ruyan today, huh? My eyes went wide. I looked at the homeroom teacher's I've known all along expression. I cautiously glanced around, then pulled him closer and lowered my voice, asking how he knew. You're still asking how I knew? The homeroom teacher pouted and glared at me. For all these years, every time you talk, you directly or indirectly bring up Liu Ruyan. Only a fool wouldn't see it. With that, he glared at me again. I was honestly afraid the cold would freeze his eyeballs. You think you can hide things from me with that brain you had in school? Dream on. He threw the bamboo skewer into the trash can and started to advise me. Liu Ruyan is still single, you know. If you like her, go and pursue her. I shook my head. I stared blankly at the grill for a long time without saying anything. When I came back to my senses, I looked up, only to find that there was no one in front of me anymore. This homeroom teacher left without even saying a word. Is he holding a grudge just because I teased him a little? Can it be that only stingy people can hold on to their money? I watched the snowflakes fluttering in the sky. The snow fell thicker and thicker. Gradually, the whole world was dyed a pure white. The awning of the grilled sausage stall was hung with sparkling icicles. I broke one off and played with it in my hand. In my past life, I really liked using my hand, right after making a snowball, to press against Liu Ruyan's cheek. I'd wait for her to pretend to be angry, then I would pull open my down jacket and pull her into my arms. My fingertips were red and numb from the cold, and the icicle in my hand melted completely. I touched the tarp that was covering everything from the snow, and just as I was about to pull it back, I unexpectedly saw a familiar person in front of me. Long time no see. Liu Ruyan was standing in the snow, tilting her head and smiling at me. She adjusted her scarf, revealing cheeks flushed from the cold. In just a few short seconds, her head was quickly covered with a thin layer of snow. Liu Ruyan, how are you? Before I could even be surprised, wondering why she had suddenly appeared here, the moment I saw the snow on her hair, by the time I reacted, I was already holding the tarp, standing beside Liu Ruyan. Liu Ruyan looked up at me, her eyebrows curving. She was wearing makeup, still as beautiful as ever. I felt my cheeks grow a little hot. Damn it, it's freezing in the winter. Why did you run out here without an umbrella? I almost said more. Luckily, I stopped myself in time. I swallowed the rest of my words. Liu Ruyan glanced at my grill tray, which was full of snow, then looked up at me again. The snowflakes on her eyelashes had melted into droplets. She took a step closer to me. I felt my heart skip a beat. I came to thank you. Thank me for what? She immediately made me feel foolish. Liu Ruyan took off her scarf and draped it over her arm, revealing her fair neck. I came to thank the person who helped me get my wallet back, to thank the person who went to so much trouble to send my dad his hospital fees, to thank the person who dressed up as a doll to cheer me up, and to thank the person who gave me flowers. She said it all in one breath. With every sentence, my heart trembled. I didn't dare to look into her eyes. I immediately averted my gaze. I stared blankly straight ahead. Liu Ruyan tilted her head, and I accidentally met her gaze again. Is that so? You must have the wrong person. Liu Ruyan. Before I could finish my sentence, her best friend popped out from some corner, holding 2 umbrellas, looking like she was possessed by a famous detective. She smirked. She pulled her phone out of her pocket. Want to see the surveillance camera footage from that alley? Want to hear the testimony from the amusement park owner? Or do you want to search the Baidu encyclopedia? After saying that, she pulled out our homeroom teacher, who was standing timidly nearby. Need a witness? My head was buzzing. For a moment, I didn't know what to say. I could only look at the homeroom teacher and Liu Ruyan, who were avoiding my gaze. You're overthinking it. I just happened to be working there. Still say I'm overthinking it? Her best friend and the homeroom teacher said in unison. They both pouted. Their expressions clearly said, "I'll believe you when pigs fly." With the two of them causing such a ruckus, Liu Ruyan, on the contrary, burst out laughing. She looked at me, straight into my eyes, and said word by word, "Thank you." My lips moved for a long time, finally fumbling out a sentence. That Liu Ruyan? Don't overthink it. I have to go home now. I put the snow tarp on the ground and turned to slip away, but my wrist was grabbed tightly. Liu Ruyan caught me. I'm really amazed at myself. This useless state of mine. She just touched me, and half of my body went limp. Damn it, her hand is still as soft as I remember. Liu Ruyan pulled me a few times and realized she couldn't drag me along. She raised an eyebrow. She decisively walked over to stand in front of me. She pouted unhappily, looking a little disappointed. I clearly wanted to pull my hand back, but my left arm wouldn't listen. I couldn't muster any strength. Just then, Liu Ruyan suddenly looked up, stood on her tiptoes, her eyes sparkling, and just looked at me like that. Do you want to try dating me? Such a direct question made me hold my breath for half a second. I wanted to open my mouth to refuse, but my head felt so heavy I couldn't move at all. I guess I've caught a cold again. Before I could figure out what to say, Liu Ruyan's eyes immediately dimmed. Based on my experience from my past life, I know Liu Ruyan is pretending to be pitiful right now. Usually at times like this, I would pinch her cheek and then surrender with a laugh. But that was a thing of the past life after all. I looked at the Liu Ruyan in front of me, really wanting to expose her act, but it was as if something was blocking my throat, couldn't get a single word out. Liu Ruyan clasped her hands together, her meticulously made-up face looming larger and larger before my eyes. I'm begging you, don't reject me so quickly. We can start by getting to know each other again. She gave me no chance to speak at all. After speaking, she held out a hand to me. Hello, my name is Liu Ruyan. I could feel the hand hanging by my leg trembling. In the end, the homeroom teacher couldn't stand it anymore. He quickly walked over to my side, grabbed my paw, and placed it in Liu Ruyan's hand. Under Liu Ruyan's expectant gaze, I choked out my words. My name is Haruo. That's a really nice name. Of course, my lover gave it to me. Damn it, I'm so useless. Liu Ruyan just got a little closer to me, and my mind went completely blank. What's more deadly is, she even smiled at me. Damn it, this is a classic honey trap. I surrender. This move really worked. At that time, I kept avoiding it, and in the end, the homeroom teacher couldn't stand it anymore, and smacked me on the head. What on earth is this kid so worried about? That's right, what on earth am I worried about? I'm worried that I'm a bad student, fundamentally unworthy of her. I'm worried it'll ruin her academic ideals. I'm worried Liu Ruyan will suffer from postpartum depression again. After I finished rambling, after I said all this, the homeroom teacher slapped me on the head again. I just saw stars and felt dizzy. When you love someone, don't you have these kinds of silly things? Let me ask you, will being with her hurt her? I won't. I suddenly raised my head and looked at Liu Ruyan, who was slowly walking towards me. It was as if a string in my head was plucked with a twang. I pushed the homeroom teacher a few steps away and rushed in front of Liu Ruyan. I was eager to get an answer. Liu Ruyan, do you want to get married? Liu Ruyan's face instantly turned bright red, so beautiful it could kill. Her lips moved and she whispered something like, I do. I immediately grew anxious after hearing that. What if he doesn't treat you well? What if he dares to bully you? What if you feel unwell during your pregnancy? Liu Ruyan's eyes darted around. She secretly tilted her head to peek at the homeroom teacher, who was winking signals at her. Then she immediately cooperated, nodding with a worried expression. She asked me, then what should I do? That's right, what should we do now? I was so worried I kept wringing my hands. Just the thought of Liu Ruyan being bullied by someone else made me angry enough to kill. A mischievous glint flashed in Liu Ruyan's eyes. She took my hand and slowly led the questioning. So, would you treat me like that? No. I answered with absolute certainty. It felt like the tangled nerves in my head were instantly straightened out. I looked at the reflection in Liu Ruyan's eyes and asked her with utmost sincerity, Liu Ruyan, if you want to get married in the future and want to find someone who will treat you well, could you please consider me first? After I said that, I quickly raised my hand and swore, the house and land deeds will all be in your name. I absolutely won't interfere with your PhD studies. As for children, we'll have them when you're ready to settle down. We'll have them. I swear I will definitely be by your side, and I absolutely won't let you suffer from postpartum depression again. Before I could finish my sentence, Liu Ruyan was already blushing furiously and covered my mouth with her hand. What are you talking about? You've already thought about marriage and having kids? She shyly pouted, leaned into my ear, and whispered, if you want to get married, then let's start by being my boyfriend first. I stared at the smile on the corner of Liu Ruyan's lips, my heart pounding like a drum. I finally heard the homeroom teacher behind me let out a long sigh of relief. Oh my, why are you so emotional you're crying? Not until Liu Ruyan's hand touched my eyes did I belatedly realize. My tears had already given the most instinctual reaction for me. I opened my arms and tightly hugged the person I had longed for day and night. What happened after that was similar to my previous life. It's just that the process was much smoother. With my constant nodding guarantees and the barrage of several houses, my dear father-in-law, although he said he was quite satisfied with me, still couldn't help but glare at me. If it were me, whoever dared to steal the cabbage from my house, I guarantee my attitude would be even worse than his. Liu Ruyan still decided to marry me while she was in graduate school. She saw through all the insecurities in my heart. When I was once again tossing and turning, unable to sleep, she lifted my face and said to me with extreme gentleness, "I love you. My love." Damn it, who could resist that? Get married, we have to get married immediately. The guests at my wedding were basically the same as in my previous life. As for my side, because of that drunkard father, my relatives had long since cut ties with my family. I don't even have their phone numbers. So most of the guests were my and Liu Ruyan's classmates, and relatives from my father-in-law's side. The classmates were all incredibly surprised. No one expected that Liu Ruyan would end up falling for a bad student like me. But despite their surprise, everyone still offered their sincere blessings. When Liu Ruyan and I were going from table to table toasting, I suddenly noticed the homeroom teacher secretly wiping away tears by himself. I was just about to go over and tease him a bit when I saw him gulping down water. When he saw me, he winced and said, "Next time you make grilled sausages, can you not add so much chili?" The corner of my mouth twitched. I could only nod helplessly. Just as I turned away, I saw Liu Ruyan's best friend. Her mouth was stuffed with food, and she even gave me a playful wink. I thought for a moment, went over and helped rub Liu Ruyan's waist, and asked her in a low voice, "What genre is the novel your best friend writes?" "Fantasy." "Oh, that explains it then." I put my arm around Liu Ruyan and walked forward, toasting her best friend with a full glass of wine. Although I had taken every precaution, Liu Ruyan still successfully got pregnant at a time that wasn't off by a single bit compared to our past life. I was finding it strange when I happened to glance at Liu Ruyan. That smug look in her eyes. All right then. It's true that you can guard against 1,000 things, but it's hard to guard against a thief from within. Just like in the previous life, Liu Ruyan was still determined to give birth to the baby. My dear parents-in-law also took turns, persistently trying to persuade me. Sigh, it made me, the father, seem like the big villain instead. I had no choice. Fortunately, ever since I married Liu Ruyan, I had always been prepared for this. I had already moved the factory to the city where she was studying. Everything was well arranged. I was like a hands-off boss, spending all day at home researching recipes. I brought meals to Liu Ruyan on time every day. Later, I happened to overhear that the people in her office all secretly called me the 24/7 filial husband. That's quite a title. It would be even more perfect if they gave me a certificate of merit. I was really afraid that if I let my guard down even a little, Liu Ruyan would get postpartum depression again, like in our past life. I especially went to my in-laws' house and threw a tantrum, and finally, they really found me too embarrassing, so they agreed to move in with us. I also secretly took their phones and mumbled into the screen a few times, "Big data on postpartum depression. This thing is really powerful." That very day, they saw related content while scrolling through short videos. Under the close care of the whole family, Liu Ruyan smiled brightly every day, the kind of smile that comes from the bottom of her heart. I even added the psychologist from my previous life on WeChat and secretly reported Liu Ruyan's latest condition to him every day. Very fortunately, the doctor always said everything was normal. It wasn't until after Liu Ruyan gave birth that none of the conditions from the past life appeared. That's great. My love Liu Ruyan came out of the delivery room safely and woke up. The moment she opened her eyes and saw me, she burst out laughing. I was so scared that I quickly reminded her, "Be careful with your wound. You're the one who gave birth. So why are your eyes so swollen from crying?" Liu Ruyan's hand gently caressed my red, swollen eyes. As soon as she spoke, I couldn't help but want to cry again. This life, just like the last one, the issue with starchy sausage ingredients was still a big uproar. Luckily, I had experience. I directly made the factory's entire production line, from purchasing to processing, completely open and transparent. As a result, because the ingredients were genuinely clean, we actually became a bit more famous. Oh right, there was also that old man. In this life, after Liu Ruyan gave birth, I stayed by her side 24 hours a day. She happily held our daughter every day, so that old man had no chance to get close to Liu Ruyan. Most importantly, I was rarely clever that year. After he stabbed and injured me, I immediately went to the hospital to get an injury assessment. That old man showed his face once later. The moment he appeared, I threw the injury assessment report in his face. I threatened to call the police and scared him so much that he never dared to show up again. I bought a bouquet of sunflowers from the flower shop and also bought a potted cactus for my daughter. Unexpectedly, just as I stepped out of the flower shop, I saw Liu Ruyan holding our little girl and waving at me. "Honey, look quickly, it's Daddy. Daddy bought flowers for us." The corners of my eyes crinkled. I took our daughter from Liu Ruyan's arms. I held the bouquet of sunflowers up to her small face. "I'm going home to cook for you two." At night, while I was holding Liu Ruyan and sleeping, in a daze, I suddenly felt her kiss me. "What's this?" I nuzzled her with my head. I was really too sleepy. I faintly heard her say in my ear, "About the past life. I'm sorry. It must have been hard for you, running back and forth between home and the factory." "What about the past life?" I sleepily yawned. I snuggled closer into Liu Ruyan's arms. I felt something wet on my face. "It wasn't hard. You were just sick back then." Liu Ruyan's eyes immediately stung. She looked at her sleeping lover in front of her and couldn't help but gently pat my cheek. This fool. At the beginning of this life, he actually thought about staying away from me. Luckily, I have good judgment and was shameless enough not to let go. Just thinking about the past life, Liu Ruyan was no longer sleepy. She tiptoed out of the covers and helped tuck me in again. Then she sat by the bed and opened her phone. Looking at the photos taken at the amusement park that year, in the corner of almost every photo, you could find the figure of a teddy bear. Liu Ruyan flipped through the photos one by one, laughing, and tears just streamed down. Her finger stopped at the last photo. It was a shot taken from above. The teddy bear in the photo was awkwardly making a heart shape. This fool, no wonder I still fell for him in this life. The person beside her turned over, his hand fumbling around, and called out to her in a mumble, "Wifey, I'm here, just came back from the bathroom." "Oh, then hurry back." Hearing me talk in my sleep, Liu Ruyan laughed and wiped her tears. As she put down her phone, her gaze happened to sweep over a half-open drawer, revealing the corner of a piece of paper. It was tucked inside a book. She subconsciously reached out and pulled the paper out. She put on a pair of thin, light glasses. Her eyes behind the glasses showed a hint of fatigue. Written on the paper was, "The Moon Plan. Step 1. Drop out of school. Stay away from Liu Ruyan. Part 2. Start a business early." When it came to Part 3, there was only a period after it. It was obvious this fool couldn't think of anything else. Sigh, his grades were bad back in school, so this must have been difficult for him. This planning paper was torn from a test paper by him. The handwriting on it was like chicken scratch. Liu Ruyan shook her head and smiled. She put the item back where it was. She slipped back into the covers. I sleepily cracked my eyes open a slit and nuzzled forward again, too sleepy. Then I reached out my big hand and pulled my lover back into my arms. Heh, the moon is back in my arms again.